Good morning, first session apart from Brian Madden's introductory speech. How is everybody doing? Anybody hungover? Right now, I think I just spotted Danny Clark way in the back, and I think you won a book, but you missed that one. Oh, you got it? Good. So, who's from the UK? Hands up. Wow, okay, too many UK people. Any Swedes? 1, 2, oh, 3 Swedes, 4 Swedes, cool, that's amazing. So I'm from Sweden. My name is Nicke Kallen. I'm giving the presentation Ultimate AppV 4.x deployment. I was a bit too scary to put AppV5 in there, even though I knew about it when submitting the session. So I'm hoping to give you a feel of what AppV5 will look like at the end. Surprise. Obviously, I'll talk about AppV4, tons of it in the beginning, and hopefully as I transition into AppV5, you'll get an understanding of what improvements are actually made. I will have a co-presenter sitting in the front here, Aaron Parker. He'll be doing a couple of demos of how to move your packages from AppV4 to AppV5. Hopefully it works. I know he's looking a little bit stressed out at the moment. This doesn't seem to work. But hopefully he will have a working demo once he gets up here. So, who's running AppV today? Boy. So obviously you did already the ultimate AppV4 deployment, right? You're all done. Get out. No, so what I'll do, I'll share my experiences. I'll talk about the things that people usually tend to have a problem with and what you actually can do to avoid problems. First of all, I have no PowerPoint slides. I asked on Twitter, should I have any PowerPoint slides? So no PowerPoint slides. But I did realize I will need to talk about the infrastructure first, and I'm not going to show any demos on the infrastructure. So we'll just do a freehand speech and talk about it in general. Who here is running the AppV management server if those people have deployed AppV? Not as many hands. Thumbs up. The management server is a legacy piece of crap. It's really, really, really bad. It's horrible. It's coded in way too long ago. If you look at it, what the problem's showing up today, you have tons of small issues popping up when using the latest of Microsoft technology, such as incompatibilities with SQL Server 2008 R2, well actually 2008, especially 2012. You have a problem when deploying to a Windows Server 2008 R2 with remote management on the server. You have a problem with, if you have .NET Framework 4, you can't even install it. You need to uninstall .NET Framework and then install it. And if you need it for some other reason, like backup or management or anything like that, you then install the .NET Framework 4. So that's the technical problems. Looking at it, looking at why people implement it, you have a couple of reasons. It's fast. You do fast deployment of applications, fast provisioning to users. And people like that, as opposed to another Microsoft product, right? SMS or SCCM. It's not as fast. And that's generally the concern with looking at the alternative from a Microsoft perspective. It's not moving as fast. So people are usually looking for that fast deployment. However, there's no change control, there's no scheduling, there's no planned rollouts. There's nothing to actually mitigate any risks that might show up when you're deploying a new application. You put it out there, let's hope it works, right? So there's no control in what you can do with it. And some of the features that people actually tend to look at the beginning of a project and actually never implementing are licensing and reporting. Reporting was actually made a little bit better using a SharePoint-based solution to pick out the data from the database, but the native reporting features in today's version of AppV Management Server, just horrible, absolutely horrible, and ridiculous comparing that they actually have it as a feature anywhere. Looking at licensing, kind of not works at all in practice. So people who have gone down that road usually have a bad headache. Anybody disagreeing? I'm not always right, right? Okay, first topic done, all good. So if you're doing a Microsoft shop, or if you're a Microsoft shop, obviously you might have the SSM 2012 or currently 2007 edition. With 2007 R2, you have the integration components to deliver AppV applications. In 2007, it was a horrible experience and worked poorly. Let's be honest about it. It wasn't that good. So what I actually recommended all customers, which they would probably have tons of better experience with, is using the standalone mode. Standalone mode essentially being a script wrapped into a Microsoft-generated MSI, which just mimic what the management server does or what the SSM solution does. Deploying standalone with SCCM is really good. Of course, you're not as fast as the management server. Sorry, can't beat that yet. Hopefully 2012 will bring us up to speed on that one. But using the standalone mode, you will have a much better experience in deploying AppV applications. And you'll actually remove any infrastructure-related problems that you will actually see in the end. Anybody deploying 2007 AppV with the integration? Couple of hands up. Anybody using standalone mode? Couple of hands up. Okay, that's good. Anybody looked at 2012? Couple of people. Deployed, production, development? Good. That wasn't released too long ago. Awesome. So 2012 actually has a couple of advantages. The integration is there. It's a bit different. It's a bit more like whatever application deployment you're doing otherwise, which is great because the main focus of the problem with 2007 was the fact that we were doing these type of packages completely different as opposed to how we did the traditional packages. Now that's really stupid because you have to train an admin to actually, well, you can't do what you do here. You have to do it in this way, which is different. And you need more training. You can screw up differently. And you might not do it as often. 2012, there's a couple of checkboxes that are different. You can actually alter and have the experience much more like when you do a traditional MSI deployment. And you can actually use both integration and standalone mode on a client side by side if you want to. So you don't have to pick and choose. The integration is actually not something you enable in 2012. It's something that's enabled when you deploy your first virtual application to a client. So the functionality is always there. It's just switched on when you do the first deployment, which is kind of funny. But then if you keep on deploying your standalone apps, you're good to go. There is, I mentioned the standalone one. That obviously works with any type of infrastructure that can deploy MSI packages. Anybody using that outside of the SSM realm? One guy? Cool. What product? Two guys. What products are you using to deploy?
Just the share.
Okay, just a file share.
Just a file share.
Cool. You guy?
Yeah, we've got an in-house developed app to handle that.
Oh, cool. So you have your own distribution engine, basically. Cool. That costs some development time, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Awesome. There's actually a fourth method. Well, I consider SCCM one, but there's a fourth method. And that's the custom one, your home built. Basically, the AppV client, or if you look at what the SCCM does, if you look at what the standalone does, it's all scripting wrapped in a different technology. It's all wrapped in there. So the MSI just runs custom actions, which are command lines against the AppV client. Obviously, those same command lines can be executed in a command line, right? And you can build your own scripts, your own engine, your own deployment tools to do that. Considering this is, again, I'm calling it legacy way of doing it, I would say it's a bad decision to build your engine or build your own custom engine based on these command lines. Looking forward, any new Microsoft technology, what type of management will they have looking at the shell? PowerShell, obviously. And looking forward, will AppV transition into that one? Of course it will. So building your own custom one, developing your own custom way of doing it, using those old command lines, not a good idea, right? That's a really bad idea. And I won't ask if anybody did that, so we'll just skip over that part. Has anyone used any other type of way of deploying it, like a REST or? Oh, you have used REST? Okay. You as well. We have actually two AppV MVPs up here, Jurian and Aaron Parker. So that's the infrastructure, all done. Now it's all demos. Windows updates, great. So I have a patch deployment. This is the AppV client I'm intending to use. Hopefully, I'll show you how to install the AppV client the right way. There are a couple of things you need to think about when deploying AppV. There are a couple of topics that you actually need to take in consideration that can help you throughout the lifecycle of AppV. Now, I just need to look on my notes. Obviously, you need to do a bit of environment consideration. One thing that people do miss is optimizing your antivirus solution. AppV is heavily file-based. Antivirus scans those files. There might be a problem. So there's tons of great articles of how to optimize AppV and your antivirus. And there's solutions based on where AppV will place files. Please use them. You will avoid problems, especially in a heavy density environment like a terminal server. You will have a problem going forward when you increase the user load and that user load using heavy AppV applications. You will have a problem in the end. So please do that first. Usually people say, well, no, We haven't seen anything. No, because you did the pilot with 10 users maybe. Secondly, we need to install the AppV client to have it there, right? So I'm going to walk through how to do that, give you a few hints and tips. What I'll be using today is the AppV 4.6 Service Pack 2, which is here. It's currently not available. It's actually in beta, so this is the beta bits. I have no idea when it's going to be out, so don't ask me. Current version release that's available publicly is AppV 4.6 Service Pack 1. Hotfix 5 is publicly available through a knowledge base article. Hotfix 6 is available if you call in at Microsoft and say, hey, it doesn't work, and they'll send you a link and you can download it. I've just started the installer. Anybody recognize this? No one installed the AppV client? So we're admins. We always make the right decision when installing. It's custom, nothing else. If you're sequencing, if you're packaging, if you're just installing for the heck of it, it's always custom, right? You're not an end user. The problem is you always have to pick custom when deploying the AppV client because there's options here that we need to pick to have what I call a fully functional AppV client. What directory? I don't care. No one cares. This is usually a few topics of consideration. User-specific data location, obviously that's where user settings for the AppV packages will go. Sometimes people redirect app data. Anybody here doing that? A couple of people. That's a really bad idea. I won't say what you're going to do it. However, you try to manage it. If you have roaming profiles, that's not a good idea either. If you have absence, if you have rest, they're happy because they're making sales. If you have any other type of solution, I know, can I see a guy from Immediate back there? He's raising his hand. Immediate Flex Profiles is one way to handle it, and you actually have integration into the AppV package. Usually, AppV's native possibilities for handling user settings aren't perfect. So that directory, yeah, might be a good idea to leave it as a default and have a management solution on top of it. That's my general recommendation. Worst part about AppV from an admin perspective is that we have to pick a drive that you will install to. That's the Q drive. The Q drive is just a drive where we unpackage or unload all the packages and place them up there and execute from. It has to be available on the clients. Good best practice to have it the same on the packaging machine as you have it on the client. This is the first topic you talk about, and everybody who's attended a class now has to make this decision. Everybody who's ever seen AppV deployment usually hides that drive, right? That's what we do later on, and we actually have to push out a group policy to do that. All good. Global data location. Citrix people usually place these on a secondary drive, which you can expand, right? That's usually what I see because the drive or that folder can grow quite big. And that's one of the folders I recommend to exclude from antivirus because there's one big file heavily being used. Again, the antivirus could interrupt. Looking forward, we have a management decision we need to make. The default, as you can see, is we have to decide a cache size, meaning how big can that file in the global data cache or global data location be. As you can see, the default suggested value is 6 gigabytes. So how big does that file need to be? Well, how many applications do you have? That's the question. Nobody knows, right? We don't know how many applications we have. We don't know how many applications we have today. We probably don't know how many applications we will be able to virtualize down the road, right? Oh, good. Having a set value is probably a bad idea, right? We don't know how big the hard drive is. We don't know how many applications we want to fit in there. So always having a dynamic value, which was introduced in AppV 4.5, meaning we will say this file can grow as long as we have this amount of available space on the drive where the global data cache location is. So we can grow as much as possible. Great setting, always use it, never pick anything else. This one can be a debate. I would probably keep it at default. If you need a certain amount of space, which you know about, just increase it. Set it to value that suits your environment. This page is absolutely horrible, and whoever designed it is, I hope they don't work there. We have application source root. This was actually a new registry key value where we can override on a client level where packages are. So as opposed to using the configuration R package, we can say through a registry key, the client should have all the packages from this file share or this server or this something. I rarely use it. I know Aaron Parkin recommends it as opposed to moving around or changing all the values in the OSD files. Just use the override key. it would be great if you were doing a migration and suddenly had a new server or a new file share or something like that. Second one, application authorization. Require user authorization even when cached. Essentially, this means regardless, I'm saying regardless, what infrastructure you have, you will try to communicate to a server backend and authorize that you as a user can start this application even if when it's fully cached. In an offline mode, that's bad, right? You can't start it because you don't have a server. If you don't use a management server, if you're using SCCM, if you're using standalone, if you're using custom, you don't ever have a server. That one should always be unticked. No discussion. Don't ever think about ticking it. Not even in a Citrix environment, because even if you have a management server in a Citrix environment, what happens to your fault tolerance? What happens when the app management server goes down? Well, it will do that someday, right? Well, obviously, it will try to contact that server, and you can't. Second one, I just do for the kicks. Allow streaming from file. Why disable something, right? If we want to stream it from file using command line when troubleshooting, that's great. Second one, the second topic here, this is pretty much what I say. Automatically load application, meaning we will try to background stream background from a client perspective. We'll take the load of the client in consideration, and in the background stream the package down, which is great, right? I'm saying we don't do it on launch, we don't do it on login, we don't do it on publish and refresh, and we do not automatically load any applications. It is your job as an IT admin to ensure that the user will have the application in its full and its entirety in the cache. They should never have to background stream because that is your job to ensure they will have it in the cache. The best way to do it, standalone mode, right? That was what I recommended. These will actually trigger a little bit of overhead and decrease the startup time, so if they're already in the cache, you will still have a 1 or 2 second delay when starting the application. Set up a publishing server. This box is kind of the only one where you actually see if you do the typical one. It's pretty useless. It's only, you only need to configure it if you actually have a management server. Otherwise, you don't touch it at all. So most of the time, if doing my deployments, right, you won't have it. Then we install it. What it does now, lay down a couple of register keys. We have a management console. I think it's all done. I think there's actually a filter driver. If you were quick, you could, I think it popped up over there maybe. I don't know. Now, this is all great. We have the latest client. Everybody has seen it, right? No applications. All the options we wanted. We could see if we right-click on that one, choose properties. One additional thing, which I haven't mentioned so far, is that it's currently set to that if an application is running, we will show a system tray icon. And it will only show when a virtual application is in use. Will obviously pop up down in the bottom right corner. And if the application is not loaded, you will see a little progress bar going from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. I usually recommend to hide that one because the user should not concern themselves with how you deliver applications, especially if they need to see it because you have a delay when starting. You haven't done your job because you haven't preloaded that application. So you should really get on top of it and stop having things load in the background when the user started. Performance is never enough, right? So please remove the fact that we actually need to load it before we started. You should have done that way before they even thought of starting the application. This is a register key. It's not available in the ADM templates. It's not available in the ADMX templates. So use group policy preferences to push it out or write your own ADM file, basically. All good. That's the client. We're all done. Now you're perfectly suited. Since I was using app v4.6 Service Pack 2, we don't have to patch anything. If you have to patch, I recommend using a command line. The problem is when you apply a patch, if you do an install and then apply the patch, you have to reboot. So I recommend that you do a single install where you have the client or the MSI being run and then apply the patch directly afterwards, which can be used using an MSI property called patch. Pretty good, right? Okay, any questions? Are you scared? Too harsh? Okay, so I'll install the sequencer I'm not using the Service Pack 2. I'm using the AppV 4.6 Service Pack 1 hotfix free. There was a major bug in the release of Service Pack 1, so you could have errors when deploying packages. Essentially, if you registered a DLL, the path to that DLL could be faulty. So when you deploy the package, it says, I don't know where my DLL file is, which is really bad. So you have to use this version of it. Obviously, when Service Pack 2 comes out, that bug fix should be in there as well. This one is a much simpler installer, and we just click. As you could see, there was an option which I just went through where you could say, this is my drive. Obviously, that drive should match on whatever you have on the client. We have no preference if it's Q, if it's something else. So we're going to make a new package. I'll go quickly through this wizard, hopefully saving a bit of time so we can jump into that V5 stuff. Obviously, we have a couple of choices here. We're going to do a default package. There's the package accelerators, which are released through the Technic gallery, which we're not using. And I don't recommend to use it for production deployments. Please do sequence your own packages. This is a great thing that came with Service Pack 1. We get a warning about things that might go wrong. As you can see, my sequencer is perfect because I disabled the SMS agent. I have no antivirus. The Windows search service is gone. I don't have any pending reboots, for example. I hope to show an error later on, though. 3 choices of what applications, what type of application you can make. You have the standard, add-on or plugin, middleware. Technically, what you get at the end is the same. Regardless of what you choose here, technically, the package are not different. What is different is that what pages are shown here depend on what wizard you will pick. If you pick standard, you have all the options you want to. If you pick middleware, you do not have all the options you want to. So I urge you, never pick anything else than standard, because you will always regret it when you go down that line and say, oh, I needed that one, and it's not there. So always pick the standard one. Very good topic, which I think they copied from the Citrix Stream Profiler. Basically, we'll do Thunderbird. Basically, you got to pick an installer. What happens is that when we go into sequencing mode, they will start that installer. Technically, there's no difference if you pick custom or select one. What you can do is that when it goes into monitoring mode, you can play around all you want to. If you want to open regedit, if you want to run multiple installers, just go ahead. What it does is, if you're lazy, it will double-click on the file for you. That's it. So we will. As you can see, they actually assist us now. So we have a virtual application name. That's all great and fun. We actually do have a primary virtual application directory. I'm still urging people, I'm not going to do it in the demo, to actually have a 8.3 compliant name and set it on your own standards. You can break it. I'll show you. I'll show you guys. You can actually break what they do to allow you to use a long name. I'll show you in the demo what happens. So again, if you're really lazy, you click next. What will happen now is it will hopefully kickstart the installer, and we can start installing. If I want to do multiple installs, I could just keep going. If I wanted to copy files manually, I could just keep going here. You don't have to trigger anything from the sequencer. It's actually monitoring any new activities happening on this computer. New activities, meaning if you have stuff running in the background, that's a bad idea because those are not new activities. Has anybody installed Thunderbird before? I see one hand. Everybody's using Outlook. I picked custom, right? I hope you were paying attention earlier. So we're going to pick the Q drive, and we're actually going to install to our long name asset directory, and that's all great and fun. What we'll do before that, maybe not. I don't even know where the command prompt is on the start menu. So if I go to the Q drive, you people way in the back, you can read that, right? So I'll tell you what we're seeing. I just did a dir/x on the Q drive. What it will show us is all the folders on that Q drive. Obviously, with /x, you get the short name version of any folder. So Mozilla Thunderbird 9.0. That's my long name, great. Short name is rendered by appv to 61b_o wmm.sp2. That's the short name the app randomly generated for you, okay? Remember that one, especially you people in the back. I'm going to remove a couple of shortcuts. I'm going to install it. I just hope they didn't fix this bug in the service pack 2. I haven't verified that part. We're going to start it just to verify that it works. It doesn't matter where in the sequence you start it. I know the next step in the sequencer will give you the possibility to configure, but yeah. People in the front, please do tell me if I'm wrong. Short name now is Mozilla tilde 1.0. So our randomized short name is out the window. So please keep using short names because they might break during sequencing and you won't notice until 2 or 3 packages down the line. All recommended. Okay, so try to speed up here. Again, what we're going to see here is the step where you can configure software. It doesn't matter if you start the software during the installation or the configuration software phase. All good. It still picks up all the changes. What will happen as well is that we'll have an installation report, essentially things that could, I'll pass through this step, things that could be a problem if we deploy it. As you can see, files were excluded from the package, meaning we have a couple of default exclusion paths. That's all good, right? I won't do customize. We'll just stop it. However, as I was admins, we should always do customize, right? But in the essence of time, I'm skipping that step. So we're actually going to generate our package. We'll have a brand new package which we hopefully can deploy, and we should be good. That's pretty quick. 10 minutes, right? To sequence the software. It's not that bad. Should work, right? I'm just going to copy it out to my local desktop. And the AppV client, we'll copy it in. This is the standalone deployment method, and if you have deployed the AppV client in the way that I told you, which you always should, you can just run that MSI and you will have the package available. As you can see, the shortcut's available. We start it. We get a wizard, and we get an error. That's not good, right? Horrible. Bad packaging experience. Our package doesn't work. I think this one actually requires you to investigate a little bit. We won't go through it because I'll show you AppV5 instead. So the packaging of the software is pretty quick. If you know the steps, what we could investigate here is obviously disable out updates. Do we have any customer improvement program we want to pick out? Those are the things you will probably look into regardless of deployment method. As you can see, standalone method is a really good way of deploying both in an isolated test environment to exclude any infrastructure problems, but it works really well in production deployment using your own distribution engine. If that's SCCM or a custom one, great. So let's see here. What I'll do, I'll just repeat the steps and we'll do it with AppV5. See the difference, right? See if it's better. So who here has been looking at AppV5? A couple of hands, more than I expected. Anybody, any production deployments for the beta? No production deployments, scary. AppV5 is really great if you look at it from a couple of different perspectives. While we're waiting for this one to boot up, let's see if I can actually install the client. As you can see, it's a single install. It's one file. That was what I meant. I'm going to click install. I have a license agreement because everything you install has a license agreement. We can't opt out of the customer experience improvement program, horrible Microsoft. We click install. If you compare the installation of this one compared to the client installation of AppV 4.6, major difference, right? Hopefully they made all the choices we did now available natively with the installation, and we don't have to make any advanced decisions. There are a couple, I think there are like 4 switches or something you need to know about. One is to enable scripting. So if you do scripting, you need to enable that one. One is to enable migration. And I'm going to show you, I haven't done any special command lists now, so I'll show you how it works out of the box, and you might have to take that into consideration when doing deployment. We have a new GUI, and obviously it's based on what? The subway, right? Metro. It has pretty colors, so it's supposed to be user-friendly. Hopefully they can assist themselves if something breaks. I don't know about that, but hopefully this will make it better, right? I don't have anything deployed here, so It looks, I'll admit it, it looks better than the old one, so this is good, right? If you want to troubleshoot, anybody who did it before AppV 4.5, you know that you had to read a file which essentially contained all the errors. Now we have now we have dedicated event logs which will produce any errors we have. So obviously any monitoring tool which support event logs could monitor the AppV client. That's all great, right? I never understood this, but on this particular machine, I never see the Q drive. I think I would have been hiding it. So there should be a Q drive because I do have the other client here, right? I didn't uninstall AppV 4.6 Service Pack 2. So we actually have, I'll show you guys it's installed. So we actually do have both clients installed now on the same machine. So we have the new client and the old client. This is all great and fun, which means we can have two clients at the same time. Now the question is, how will we migrate packages, right? So one topic is, are the packages the same? No, they don't look the same. We have a brand new format. I'll show you when I produce a package. The other one is they'll actually be, what do you call it, wide open. They won't be executed on the Q drive. They're not located on a cache file. You remember that? I had a big discussion about the size of the cache file. Well, we couldn't define the cache file right now, but we've got to have a cache, right? It's just plain laid down on the operating system. So there's no one big file containing everything, but instead it's natively placed there, right? So before I go and sequence the other one, I'm going to show you, we're going to do control panel. We'll start IE. Later. So what I'm going to show, I installed Thunderbird, and considering that Thunderbird is a mail program, we should be able to set it as a default mail client, for example. Let's see how quick this is. Now, one option we don't have when deploying it to AppV is that when deploying applications, we do actually have a big topic that we lose some things. We have two types of integrations into the operating system. One is file type associations, one is shortcuts. If your application depends on anything else, you're out, basically. And that is the only limitation of AppV packages. There's no technical reason of why you cannot sequence anything. As you can see, Mozilla Thunderbird is not available in the list of applications we can choose. So this is one specific case of an interaction with the application which is not possible after we virtualize it. Of course, we can work around it. If you know the register keys, you can make it happen. But that seems like a lot of work, right? Let's do this with AppV 5. There we go. So the sequencer install wasn't that too much fun. So basically, I'll just do the install. Not a whole lot of options. You don't pick a Q drive. On this one, my Q drive is a, oh, it's not there. As you can see, yeah, the Q drive's not there. So the sequencer will not install a Q drive for you. All good. Meaning something's got to be different now that we sequence, right? We'll install, start the sequencer. Looks pretty much the same, right? Not too scary. This one's grayed out, still in beta, so we'll have to accept that one. We have a pending reboot. I don't know why I have a pending reboot when I reset the snapshot and didn't have it before, but this is how a report looks of something that could pose a problem when sequencing. You don't have to care about it, though. Again, which one should I pick? I'm hearing mumbling. This is not an American audience. Standard. We can do the same thing. We'll have to pick the installer. See if I can locate it. We're doing Thunderbird. Again, same installer. All it does, it gives you a lazy step. You don't have to double-click the file. We'll name the package. As you can see, it didn't magically enter here. There's something majorly different here. We actually have to specify what directory we will install the Mozilla Thunderbird into, or any package we deploy. Now, previously, we had the recommendation, always install it into the asset directory on the Q drive, right? That was the one directory we installed to. Now, that was best practice. If it didn't work, just install it as default. We'll see what happens, right? Now we have to specify. Well, does anybody here know the default installation path of Mozilla Thunderbird? you know, in case you had it laying around on no paper. I had to look it up, not look stupid. So let's see if I can type. I thought it was this, but apparently they add this as well. So C program files Mozilla Thunderbird. Now obviously if you never installed a piece of software, how are you supposed to know this, right? You don't. You can of course pick whatever you want to if you have the option to redirect the installation to a different path. So I could say Mozilla and say install it to Mozilla. That's good. Hopefully we get through this pretty quickly. Again, we're admins. I always pick customs. Use Thunderbird as my default mail application. C program files Mozilla Thunderbird. Same path as I entered. Always recommend to install to that path. We're going to move the, well, we'll keep the desktop shortcut. And I'll just do the install. This is pretty quick. We'll launch the application again. I'll click cancel. I won't set up a mail account because we don't want the users to have my mail account. I'm finished installing. Again, the experience from the previous version, pretty much the same. It's not too scary. The sequencing part will be roughly the same. Does everybody here know how the old version of an app-v package looks like? If I open up the folder containing an app-v package, what are we looking at? A couple of files, right?
OSD files, PRA files, BRG.
SBRJ, and SFT files. OSD, SFT, SBRJ, a couple icons, and an MSI if we generated that one. I'll violate my own best practice because the teacher can always do that. Stop now, we won't do the customize, and we'll just create the package. Get the same report or a summary of it. Now we have a new one, and we actually have a .appv package. We have a Thunderbird MSI, and we have a couple XML files. We have the summary of the report, meaning all the things that we were warned about. We also have the deployment and user config. I'm just going to keep on rolling here. Does anybody know what the deployment config and user config might have in different? What's the secret of why we have two files? One guy? Go ahead. You're my top student. You don't know? You're just scared, right? So previously, we could do scripting. We could do scripting, and that was always executed in user context. One thing that people wanted was, I have a prerequisite to install. But obviously, my users need to be an admin if that was supposed to run on an app-v scripting level. Now we can do it at deployment time, meaning when we add the package, and we can do it when publishing it to the user. So we actually have two types, and obviously they have different elevations. That's a big increase, right? It's all XML-based, not too hard. If you know XML, you can figure it out pretty much. The two files here are sample files, which contains pretty much everything you can do in a sample format. So we'll just showcase it to you. We can obviously start Mozilla Thunderbird. I hope, right? Click cancel. No error message, right? Whatever they did, what problem we previously had to tweak in app v4.6, we do not now have to tweak. So we can just get it working out of the box, right? Now, obviously they made the sequencer better, right? But that's not all of it. So looking forward, we will actually have more integration to the operating system, and if I know my way around, oh wait, how to do it, too quick. So some things they wanted to enable was out-of-the-box user experience with virtual apps the same way you had with native apps. That would mean lots of more integrations with the operating system. Part of it, I'm hoping, shows up here in a while. I didn't know how long it took the last time. But we get native integration. We can handle protocol handlers. Anybody sequence Spotify? One guy's nodding. All right. Spotify, really simple app, right? Double click it, start it, log in. You get all the music you want. Swedish company, that's good. Worth tons of money, right? Great piece of software. They had a Spotify : // meaning a protocol handler. So if you click that one, you end up on a playlist in Spotify. But if you app-v it, you lose that protocol handler. So that protocol handler was gone. That's one of the integrations that we lost. Same with mail to links, URLs, all that kinds of stuff. default mail handlers, wait a second, suddenly we have Thunderbird here. We get tons of more integrations where the AppV client, without additional work, will lay down the registry keys, which we previously had to map out and either decide we don't care about them, it's not important for the user, or we care about them, we actually need to install this natively, meaning you're not virtualizing it, or yes, we're going to virtualize it, but we're going to put in that extra effort and actually pick out all the stuff and get it on the box and manage it somehow. If that's a reg file running somewhere, or if that's absence deploying registry keys, we don't know. Now, I didn't do anything, right? I didn't tweak around, I didn't play around, there's no hocus pocus. We just got it out of the box, no configuration. That's a lot better. I wish I could say we're all the way. We got all the integration points we wanted, but obviously there's a big list we want, and we got about this much. So there's 20% more, which I'm still whining about to everyone at Microsoft. And hopefully in, I don't know, Service Pack Future somewhere, they'll have the budget or start listening to me and not throw my emails away. I don't know. But maybe in the future we'll have all of them. Right now we're at 90, 80%. That's all good. We have a native app experience with the virtualized applications. I don't think Citrix are there. I know ThinApp's not even close. Any other vendors? Install free? They're not here? Really? I'm hoping this is a big leap forward. So I'm hoping the AppV5 experience will be a lot better. Obviously, you have a big investment in AppV today. Therefore, I'm bringing up Aaron Parker here. So if you have a big investment in AppV, you have tons of packages, right? Come up. Don't be scared. I won't bite you. You have tons of packages, and as you can see, we have a new format. Now, that new format, obviously, you have to transition from AppV4 to AppV5. How will that transition go? Do you need a mic?
Yeah.
You get this one?
Trying to do three things with two hands might be a little bit difficult.
Please bear with us.
Everyone hear me up the back if I talk really loudly? A few nods. Okay. So maybe if you hold the mic occasionally.
Okay. So what Aaron will show us, I'll give him a heads up, and you can concentrate on that one. What Aaron will show us is the transition with your current investment in AppV4 packages, moving forward to AppV5. Obviously, there's a road that you need to take in moving those packages into the new format. Some things can be done, some things can't be done, but essentially it's a really good road, and it's not too hard, and you can actually, as you will show, I hope, right, you can batch it so you don't have to sit and do a manual process all the time. I think you have started.
Hello, can you hear me? That's better. So there's nothing like flying by the seat of your pants. I've actually got this demo while Nicke's been talking, so we'll see how this goes. So who is not a fan of PowerShell? Tim put his hand up. All right. So PowerShell is the only way to get from version 4 to version 5 packages. Unfortunately, though, that means that you can automate the whole process, which is a good thing. So what I have here, for those people at the back who probably can't see this, is I have a version 5 sequencer, and I've copied some version 4 packages inside this. So I think if I open this up, I've got a couple of packages in here. I've got Adobe Reader 9, Adobe Reader 10, and I'm not going to type in all the command lines. I'm going to do a copy and paste job. So there's a few things, a few modules in here, PowerShell modules that the sequencer installs. And probably not going to see this right at the back, so we'll talk through it. So if we have a look at the modules, so we have an AppV sequencer module, so we can do some, hopefully at some point, some automation. It's not all there in the beta. But the conversion piece is, so AppV PKG converter. And if I get the commands out of that, I've got two commands. Test legacy AppV packages, because I've got my v4 packages and I really need to test all those and ensure they're going to convert fine. And then I can convert those. So I can then bring them into my version 5 clients. So I'll just flick through here. So I can do a few things. Let's test these packages. So I'm going to do get child item, basically a directory listing of my current directory where I have my version 5 packages. I'm going to pipe these out to test legacy AppV package. So just grab everything in the directory, pipe it out. So what happens here, I've got two packages. The first one is Adobe Reader 9, and it's saying the icon for this folder, icon folder for this package is missing. So it's just the warning. I'm getting a warning. I know perhaps this package is going to go across fine, but maybe I've got a couple of little issues with it. And the second one says, no, the package has no major errors or warnings, so that's pretty cool. So we can convert those, nice and easy. Now if I'm, maybe what I'm doing here is, I've got a huge number of packages in there. I can probably go through all of those, test them, and then what I can do is, based on whether I'm getting errors or warnings, I can then only convert the ones that are going to be successful. So let's convert one. So I'm going to do convert from, now this is where I need 3 hands. Can you hold that?
He's a man, so only one thing at a time.
So essentially what I'm going to do is convert from legacy AppV package. I've got a source, so my Mozilla Firefox 8 package, and a target. Target's just a folder somewhere where I'm going to save the output for this.
Do you have the folder?
Yeah.
Certain?
Yeah. That didn't work.
So,
let's make this, that didn't work, so let's make this more complex. Instead what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do, from the current directory, I'm just going to get all the packages, pipe them through to test legacy AppV package. And then out of that I'm using where object, so the errors based out of that test. So if a package has an error or no errors, so where errors count equals 0, essentially package tests okay, then pipe those packages into convert from legacy AppV package. So if you're going to do this in production, maybe you're going to wrap this around some little more intelligence and pipe out the ones that have some errors, and so that you can go back and have a look at those. So with any luck, hey. So what it's doing now, it's tested the package, it's found it's got no errors, and maybe I could have changed this to warnings as well, so I don't convert it if it has errors or warnings, and it's converting the package and away it goes. So this will go and do Adobe Reader 9, and then it'll go on and do Adobe Reader 10. But that's probably like watching paint dry, so we won't watch that convert. So I'm going to just flick over the client, give you a quick look at this. So this is an AppV client machine. I've got both the AppV 4.6 SP2 client on here, and I have the AppV V5 client as well. So if I have a look at, I've got Mozilla Firefox 5, and if you're familiar with this, the shortcut points to SFT tray, just like we know in AppV V5, V4. But the Mozilla Firefox 8 client points to firefox.exe. So as Nick was saying earlier, we don't have a cache file. It's not obscured from the operating system. I can actually see firefox.exe, and that's where my shortcut is pointing to. So if I can open up Firefox V5 out of my V4 client. This will take a few minutes, so we'll skip that. And at the same time, I should be able to open up my Firefox 8 package, both of them being handled by different versions of the client. Pretty cool. So the old command line, if you're familiar with this, if you're doing standalone installs or roll your own deployments, perhaps I'm using SFTmine. So I've got here SFTmine, add package, Firefox 5, manifest file, override URL, and the SFT file, and so on. So that's the old command line way of importing packages into V5. Fortunately, with the new V5 stuff, I can use PowerShell. Great stuff. Add AppV client package, pointing to my .appv file package, and then just pipe that straight to publish. So 2 pieces. I'm adding the AppV package to the client, and then I'm publishing it to the user. So maybe perhaps at some point I'm doing this in separate components, but here I can just pipe it straight through the command line.
So Aaron, I'm going to interrupt you. Obviously the conversion went well. That's good, both for the Reader 9 and Reader X. Can you add them to the client?
Yeah. So what I should be able to do here if I pick the right client. So he's saying if I I've got a couple of packages.
Yep.
I want to pipe this straight in. All right. So I have a couple of packages in the wrong folder.
Yep.
Obviously, there we go.
So obviously, we have one file. It's pretty easy to handle. What you can do as well, you can demand using PowerShell, you can parse the configuration files. So you can use those to actually alter the deployment, meaning if you want to have different shortcuts placed in a different location, you want to edit the script, you will actually execute, stuff like that. So using PowerShell, it might be, let's see how long Microsoft sticks to this one, and maybe it will be a good idea to build your own solution. Obviously, any third-party vendor doing AppV integration will use PowerShell in many ways. Right, Rodney? Even though you're sleeping? PowerShell all the way, right? One thing, let's see how far you got.
So I've got a folder worth of just a whole heap of AppV5 packages, and if it's difficult trying to do this with one hand. So essentially what I'm going to do is just get a directory listing of that folder, pipe it straight through to add AppV client package, and then continue to pipe that through to publish.
Too many A's.
Wait.
You have too many A's.
One hand is a little hard. Okay, real easy. So instead of having to go through, say I've got 10 packages in this folder, instead of having to go through 10 SFT line commands, I can do the whole lot on one line. Get the listing of the directory, pipe it through to adding the packages to the client, and then publish them. So there's not much demo there, but that'll go through and, access denied, awesome.
You're not admin, right? Like
No,
your
no,
users?
The seat in my pants is just flown off.
Okay. One thing you could show, though, if you go back to one of the folders with an AppV package. So obviously, previously we had the legacy format. If you just open one of the version 5 packages, you're probably copying.
It's a little bit slow doing this. There we go.
You don't have SSD? So yeah, what you can do if you rename that package .appv, if you rename it to
This one?
yeah .zip. So what you will see is actually that the new format is not a proprietary format. It's just, can you open it? So what actually here is that you can access the package. And as you can see, there's a registry.dat. That's cool, right? That could be a registry, right? 3 megabytes, seems like a heavy registry. But still, that could be a registry if you pick up the regedit tool. Yeah, okay, you have to copy it. So if you pick up regedit, you can actually load up this Hive like you did do any other user Hive. And using this technology, you can actually look into a package without using any tools. Now, before I'm saying this, I let Aaron do it the wrong way. Because to show a bad example, what's actually not supported is that you do rename it to zip and open it and pick out files like this. So if you are going to do this, I would recommend you to have a copy of the package and work against that copy, because it has been cases where where the package actually broke afterwards if you do rename it to zip and start playing around. It's absolutely not supported, sounding like grandma now, to inject files in there. So you can't copy anything else. Obviously, Microsoft will only support you going through the sequencer, and hopefully they will allow a PowerShell commandlet to do automation sequencing if you just want to add files easily. And as Aaron has shown, he mounted that registry.dat mounting up in the normal regedit, and we can now see the virtual package basically.
So let me try this publishing these items again, because I think it's still copying in the background. No access to them.
You're not
I'm
admin?
doing something wrong. No, I'm definitely an admin. PowerShell is as admin, yes.
Did you elevate? I'm just teasing. So I really don't know. Get child item? Oh, sounds good. Looked like a good command line. If you have a bit of time and don't feel stressed out and you're not hungover because I bought him 20 beers last night, you should get this working. Hopefully you're a bit more relaxed, especially if a cup of coffee, 8 o'clock on Monday morning. Hopefully that command line would work. So,
Don't drink and sequence.
especially if you're an Australian. So what do people think? At v5, great, right? Not too hard to go from at v4, and you can do a coexistence scenario moving forward, allowing you to do a gradual and not a big bang migration, right? Anybody excited about the new features? Anybody here who will reevaluate the applications that you previously turned down for sequencing due to new integration points? No one? 5 people? 2 hands from one guy? So at v5 will obviously be a big leap forward when it comes to integration, and hopefully we can see the amount of applications being able to virtualize will increase, not because they're technically complicated, not because we have issues with them, but because we can allow a better user experience. I actually gave a talk during the European AppV user group in Amsterdam, and there was a big best practice of what you could do and all the stuff you should focus on. However, my big statement there was that there are no technical limitations in what you can sequence. It only has to do with how you're limited when actually still denied. You're running on a Mac, sorry, dude. I can't help you. I don't know this stuff. No, the limitation is the integration. You will discover that your users are using applications quite heavily in a way you didn't know about. Now, obviously, this is the worst example because any AppV training, the first application you sequence, what is it? WinRAR WinZip, right? What do you lose? The right-click menus. That is the most common user experience that people will lose when virtualizing applications, the right-click menus. Fortunately, it's more there, it's not quite there. They're almost. So hopefully, all these little tiny applications that were really easy to do can now be virtualized and provided using easy-to-do manners. Am I stressing you out, Aaron?
No, I think we'll see what happens with this one. I think I might have it right. Oh, come on, round of applause for that one.
Come on!
So, what I was missing? 2 things. I wasn't recursing the directory tree, so there's nothing to actually import. Secondly, what I'm actually doing now that I am recursing the directory tree is I'm filtering on .atv files, so that I'm just returning the actual packages and not trying to import
XML file, MSI files,
yeah.
yep.
So now it's just gone and done that. So you can see that if you were to go and use PowerShell to roll your own deployment method, that is really simple. So much simpler than v4. I think that's wonderful.
That does not mean I will recommend you to build your own custom engine?
I would.
So we're disagreeing. Nah. Okay, so I don't know when we're ending. I'm hoping we're at the end. Obviously, we have, I don't know how many AppV MVPs. We got one question in the back. Sure. Aaron, you have a blog, right?
Yeah, actually I've got an entire blog post on this stuff. You go to selfpuppy.com, look for migrating v4 to v5 packages. You'll see it there. Entire blog post walks you right through it. Now the other thing that this sort of the conversion piece will do is the output of that will just be, so if I just take a whole directory, output it to something, there's going to be a whole heap of packages just in a single directory. So the other thing that blog post does, it talks you through some extra code in there, and then outputting them all to their own subdirectory and does it all nice and neatly. So I think what I've done on this, so I've got some test packages, maybe it's a little over a gigabyte in size. I've got several Office versions, so they're quite big, and a few others. I think the whole conversion took a little over an hour, maybe it was an hour 10. But yeah, just automate the whole thing. So as I was saying before, test them. Maybe I want to filter out packages that have got errors and warnings, and then just import them out. And then perhaps around that you can wrap your own. If I do get an errors or warnings, then log that somewhere so that I can go back and do it.
Any other questions? So, no hands raising. What I'm going to do now is give a plug to the rest of the AppV MVPs. Tim Mangan, Rodney Medina, can you come forward? Jurin, please come up. Yes, I'm dragging you guys up on stage. I just love this. Anybody else who's an AppV MVP here? No. Sorry, if we have so many in one place, I mean, really, we got to bring them up. Now, you're not speaking, Jurgen. No. Aaron Parker, you're giving a speech on?
The definitive guide to deploying Office with AppV.
Should you do it?
It's longer than, it's a talk that's longer than 3 words. Trust me.
Okay. So, can I have the mic? So, and Rodney, you're presenting on what?
AppV and use state virtualization, but just like Nicke said, half of my session will be about AppV version 5, and I will actually talk about the management server that Nicke dislikes. So this is that session.
Trader. Tim, what are you talking about?
I'm actually not talking about AppV at this session.
Really?
No, when we were doing the planning, I didn't expect them to announce the availability of 5.0, so instead I'm doing a couple of things on Windows performance. So one this afternoon.
Still very interesting, and everybody likes performance, right? More performance in any way.
So yeah, you have to realize that a couple of us submitted the sessions, and the AppV 5 release was actually also not communicated to us. So we actually found out through blogs from Microsoft people that the release was done. So that's why a couple of us are adding the AppV 5 stuff yesterday evening and today to the presentation.
No special treatment for Microsoft when it comes to product releases, so we found out pretty much the same way you do, like a surprise on a Monday morning, and that's pretty much it. I think that's off. Okay, I want to lay it down. So, round of applause for everyone. I hope you can attend the sessions later on. That's it.
Does anybody have any questions? We still have 10 minutes left, so I know people have questions. Someone has to have a question.
No worries.
10 minutes left before
No.
the next session's break. Any questions at all?
Thanks.
Anybody?
No worries. We're European. We don't ask questions. We got one from Jurin, though.
We have questions.
You have?
The most important question, availability for P5?
In the future. Yep. I know. We're in beta now. The last time they had, what was it, AppV 4.5, they went beta. They didn't have a release. Did they have a release candidate? They just kind of dropped it, like now we released it. So no, I don't know. Honestly though, they're probably tweaking out what they're going to support and not, and decide what they're going to do in the future. Obviously, they can't fix everything in one release, so yeah. Oh, good. Not too bad. One more question? Oh, I get the mic for you. Yep. Yep. User profiles are actually placed just like the package, really. No, it's just file. The directory structure is placed in a different in the user profile openly on a file structure, basically. However, then in the virtual environment, it's merged up. I think if you really want to look at it, take a look at Rodney Medina's session. Taking a look from a registry perspective, you're actually in the real registry. So it will actually, pretty much like Aaron did, it will mount up the registry in the real Hive. So you're actually working against a real file system. Just, you're not in the C program files. You're in the C users, blah, blah, blah place. But you don't have any PKG files, no zip, no AppV, nothing like that. All good. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. I hope you're not too hungover yet, or I hope I woke you up at least.
Thank you.